Thank you, everyone. I have to compliment the organizers for putting the old white male last. But you really need to check on old white males' bedtimes before you make it this late in the day. I'm with the Institute of Natural Resources, and I'm intensely proud of the science that we do. That said, all donations and any work accepted. I just want to say that this is a discussion and a conversation. It's not really about science. It's a little bit of arithmetic, it's a little bit of advocacy, and it is probably, it is, oversimplistic. And probably for this time in the afternoon, it's quite good that it's oversimplistic, that we don't make this life too complicated. And it's just an example of how we might proceed. Okay, and I can't read this properly because there's no light onto this. Okay, so excuse me if let's move this a little bit around, then I can see what I'm doing. Okay, so what is the fundamental question? The question is, how do we secure sustainable finance streams of revenue that we can invest in catchment management? How can we secure these sustainable streams? We've heard today about Jeff 5. We've heard about Jeff 6. They're not internal sustainable streams. They're once-off blocks of projects. How do we generate something that is internal and that is sustainable? Okay, to help nature do its work, for water benefit, for biodiversity benefit. So we're sitting in about 6 months ago. I'll try not to use a single acronym. I'll try not to. In a meeting of the Umgeni Ecological Infrastructure Partnership, and the question was asked is, where is this money that the Department of Water and Sanitation collects through catchment management charges and through which Umgeni Water collects, where is it and what happens to it? And we also looked at Department of Water and Sanitation and sort of said, where's the money? And they looked at us and said, we don't know. Okay, so I offered to do a little bit of research, and there was a vested interest in doing this just investigation, because we have got Jeff 6 coming along, and it's about financing mechanisms. So let's get a head up. So I went and did a little bit of reading and a little bit of thinking. And the first thing is, okay, well, why do we want to invest? Well, it is obvious, but firstly, access to water is constitutionally a fundamental human right. I would extend that a little further and say that it's a fundamental human right to be able to engage in water resource management. The second thing is that water is a commodity. We trade it, so we need to invest in it. The third thing is that South Africa is a water-scarce country. We all know that. You've got to invest in what is scarce. And the fourth reason, and that's specifically within this catchment, is that we are fairly well resourced with water. It provides us with a competitive advantage to invest in water in this catchment. We already have a lead, let's invest. So the first question I asked myself was, are we investing sufficiently in water resource management? And the first thing I did to say, well, what does national government think? What does Treasury think about all this? And so I said, okay, what is the allocation to the various departments, and how do they stack up? So who knows what health gets allocated? 40 billion, all right? Education, higher, tertiary, and primary and secondary gets about 72 billion. We've got social development gets 147 billion rand. So that's quite a lot of money. By comparison, the Department of Water and Sanitation receives about 15 billion. So it receives significantly less than the rest. But remember, of course, water is traded. So there is income over and above what National Treasury allocates. So that's a bit biased. And for most of us who are in the environmental sector, who knows what the allocation is to the Department of Environment Affairs? 6.5 compared with the rest. So it just gives you an indication of where national government thinking in terms of priorities. And certainly it's not in, by comparison with others, it's not in the water and then the environmental sector. So if we look at all the water transactions in South Africa, whether it be a municipality, national government, stream flow reduction activity, whatever it is, and we add it all up. Someone went and did that. And they got to a number of 56 billion rand. Okay. So that's the entire transactions on water in South Africa. Now that seems like quite a lot of money. Shoprite Checkers does more. Okay. One business in South Africa transacts greater than the entire water sector. So that also gives you an idea that maybe there is something not quite right. Okay. So moving on. Wait, I need a... See, I flustered me here. I need something. I need something. 1 liter. You know how difficult it is? Oh, I've got to move back to this place. Yeah. I can't see it from the screen. Do you know how difficult it is to find a 1 liter bottle of water? It is exceptionally difficult. But this is not any 1 liter bottle of water. You know where this started out life? Who knows? France. France, it's Evian. Costs 30 rand a liter. You can go and buy it at Pick and Pay today. So that's 30 rand, 1 liter of water. Anyway, okay, so normally you can buy a local bottle of water, 1 liter, for about 8 to 10 rand. Okay. Message in that is the private sector is looking for some very serious returns on its investment in terms of the sale price of that water. Okay, let's move into, so that is your extreme. That's how private sector deals with water in a commercial context. Let's look at what what the Mzanduzi municipality or the Mgungundlovu district municipality where we're located here, they will charge you, what do you think the cost of that is as municipal water? 30 rand is Evian. What's it? 10 cents. 2 cents. 2 cents. So that is the value of that, is 2 cents. But, so I'm trying to make this as real as possible. But if we take this and we scale it up to an Olympic-sized swimming pool, who can tell me what it costs to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool with this? It costs you 50,000 rand. Okay. So the moment you start scaling up the volume of water, the price increases quite appreciably and quite quickly. So if we take this and we go to Umgeni Water and they sell it to the Water Service Authority, the municipality, and they sell it to them at about 6 rand a cubic meter. So we're dealing with something here which costs 0.6 of a cent. Okay, that's the value of the water at that level. And that is, would cost you about 15,000 rand to fill the same swimming pool. So that's when that's sort of a reasonable costing and a reasonable value, and getting sort of reasonable value on the water. So about 3 months ago, as part of the investigation, I head out to Moy River, to one of these Department of Water and Sanitation water tariff meetings. And the one reason I went there is I wanted to see the farmers toying about the price of water. And I arrived there, and there was not a single farmer in the room. And there were more Department of Water and Sanitation officials than there were stakeholders. And I thought, hey, what's going on here? And then we had our normal death by PowerPoint. And at one point, this figure came across the screen, and it was 1.63. And I thought to myself, hang on. Municipalities are charging us 20 Rand a cubic meter for water. Amgani Water is charging 6 Rand a cubic meter for water. And for irrigation water, they're paying 1 Rand 63 cents. That's quite cheap for irrigation water. And then I realized, and I got very, very quiet and didn't say a thing for the rest of the meeting, is that it wasn't 1 Rand 63. It was 1.63 cents a cubic meter. Then I began to realize that there was something quite wrong. So if we take that and we take an Olympic-sized swimming pool, some of you will be familiar with the university pool here locally, 2.5 million liters of water in it. You know what it would cost to fill that? So this is 30 Rand for 1 liter. It would cost the value, the price of the water itself, not the pumping cost, the price of the water itself would be 40 Rand to fill an Olympic-sized swimming pool. Then I realized what the fundamental issue is. Your actual return in investment is so low because your original price is so low, you have nothing to invest. So when I was asked to do the research, I found plenty of places where there was provision for catchment management charges, for doing that, but it's just the revenue is not sufficient for it to do anything. So with that in mind, I said, okay, so just to go back to some of the research that was done to just make a point of this. So we've heard about the research that was done that if we invest in removing alien invasives in the Amgani River catchment, we can generate X amount of water. Well, the amount on an annual basis is about 7.2 million cubic meters of water that you can generate by removing all the alien invasives, and it would cost you about 250 million to remove the alien invasives. So what you have is, if we take that scenario, what is that 7.2 million cubic meters of water worth? 117,000 Rand. You're going to invest 250 million for 117,000 Rand return. You've got to be absolutely crazy. So the whole thing doesn't make sense. So what can we actually do about it? Well, the first, and I think the practical thing, for me anyway, is let's forget about the irrigation water for now. Let's forget about the water straight out the dam, because we could increase the price of it fourfold, it would make no difference. So, but if we were to take, let's use Amgani Water. They charge 6 Rand a cubic meter. Okay. So, and we increased the price of water that they transact by 1 Rand a cubic meter. In real terms, it's taking that from 0.6 of a cent to 0.7 of a cent. Is that meaningful to a consumer? Not really. Okay. They sell 400 million cubic meters of water a year. That's 400 million Rand, straight up, bang, into the fiscus that you can use. Okay. If you were to increase the price that municipalities sell the water to you at, and you actually, we've heard how the leaks are. If we halve that, so instead of Amgani Water sells 400 million cubic meters of water, okay, let's say there's 200 million cubic meters of water actually sold by the municipalities. That's another 200 million Rand. There's 600 million Rand into a system which already exists, which could be used for catchment management. So there is a simple way of generating, and I'm oversimplifying it. There is a simple way of generating additional income. A friend of mine, Duncan Stewart, who directs Lima, said, the challenge is not to collect the money. The challenge is how do we actually spend it effectively. I just want to leave you with 3 take-home messages from this. And they take home opinions. I'm a fairly opinionated non-scientist. Okay. It's probably easier. We had in the presentations earlier today, someone spoke about the failure of payment for ecosystem services and the administration around them. And I can understand that. It's much easier to piggyback on an existing revenue stream, payment for water, than it is to develop an entirely new one. That is what I would, that is something that I'm absolutely sure of. Because generating new administrative systems, particularly at this scale, are likely to be difficult and highly contested. I think, and I've said, I think you can increase the price of water to the consumer without hurting the consumer. I think it's a modest, I think there's lots of the prices are so low that I think there's lots of flexibility, and despite the political resistance, I think it's something that can happen. And finally, there's this argument in the corridors of power that water is a constitutional right, and by commodifying it, we might actually reduce our constitutional right of access. I would say it's the other way around. I would say that if we don't commodify it and if we don't get a return on our investment, we will not be able to realize water as a fundamental human right. Thanks.